Last weekend, the 97th Annual Academy Awards took place here in LA, an occasion that, for me, brought the intersection of Jews and Hollywood into focus, producing a lot of observations, feelings, and questions. So today, I want to tackle, in no particular order, all the things I thought about last Sunday, and some of the things a lot of you told me you were thinking about too. One question I get a lot is, if Jews run Hollywood, why does Hollywood seem to be so uncomfortable with Jews? There's a lot to this answer, so let's start at the beginning, before even the first Academy Awards 96 years ago. Surely you all recall Hollywood founders Lazar Meir, Wilhelm Fuchs, Shmuel Gelbfish, and the Wansall brothers. No? Well, how about Louis B. Mayer, William Fox, Samuel Goldwyn, and the Warner brothers? Yeah. Hiding one's Jewishness was one of the bedrocks upon which Hollywood was built. And that is no knock on these pioneering men, all of whom were Eastern European immigrants looking to embrace their new home and achieve success in a brand new industry. And just as these studio heads, or should I say Judio heads, were hiding in plain sight, so too were Jewish sensibilities and values and humor leaking into scripts and onto the screen, in many ways charting the course for the pop culture defined values of this great country. Though, of course, rarely under the auspices of actual Jewish characters or stories. So even though Jews built the industry, their efforts were rarely to the public benefit of the Jewish people or their image, and the same often rings true today. Which begs the question, though Jews have always been an integral part of Tinseltown, is the Jews run Hollywood trope in fact true? First of all, there's never been a single study to actually identify how many Jews even work in Hollywood. The whole thing is anecdotal, and obviously, there are a lot of Jews working in Hollywood, but there are also many non-Jews in positions all over the industry, including the head honchos at major companies like NBC Universal, Netflix, and Sony. And with international conglomerates buying up studios anyway, entertainment industry leaders don't have the power they used to, Jewish or otherwise. Furthermore, let us zoom in on some geographically specific data concerning Hollywood's Jewish gatekeepers. According to a 2021 study commissioned by Jewish Federation Los Angeles, a quarter of the city's Jews identified as minimally involved. And of that quarter, only 5% said being Jewish was important to how they see themselves. Another quarter of Jews participate in home-based activities, but rarely in Jewish organizational or communal life. So when we think about Jews running Hollywood, we must bear in mind that 50% of the Jews in this town are not actively connected to the community at large. So to expect them to be outspoken leaders or strongly focused on a Jew-positive agenda feels unreasonable. Though I have witnessed the post-October 7th awakening of many Hollywood Jews with my own eyes, so I imagine this data looks very different today. Even so, if I may revisit a point I made in episode 23, we must stop expecting all celebrities with a drop of Jewish blood in them to advocate loudly for our community. This is not to let them off the hook, but to expect that already disconnected Jews will carry the torch for us in a time of crisis is just unrealistic. Take Timothy Chalamet, or as Adam Sandler might say, Timothy Chalamet. Despite having a Jewish mother and playing a Jew on screen, Chalamet has never engaged with the Jewish community in a meaningful way. You can't expect someone like that to wear a hostage pin to the Oscars. The world often forgets that celebrities are just human beings with very public jobs. They're not symbols, they're not leaders, they're just people who are highly visible, which in no way means they will or should feel or behave the way we want them to. Speaking of Adam Sandler, as one of the most public-facing Jews in entertainment, many of you have expressed to me being particularly hurt by his silence since October 7th, which I completely understand. And consider this. Adam Sandler has probably done more for normalizing contemporary Jewish life and popular culture than anyone in the past 25 years. The man made Hollywood's only mainstream Hanukkah film, the only comedy starring an Israeli character, a song that introduced millions to the joys of Hanukkah and simply being Jewish, and he was behind the film You're So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, which I think is one of the best on-screen celebrations of contemporary Jewish life ever. I even wrote an article for Variety about it. Google it. I am certain in his mind, his cultural contributions are his way of making a difference. And I agree it should count for something. But it makes me wonder, are these Jewish actors truly unaware of how pathetic it is to watch them cower and shrink away from their identities? And for what? Follower counts? A pat on the back from someone who'd hunt them before they'd hide them? In an age where Zoe Saldana wins an Oscar, speaks in Spanish, and proudly announces her Dominican heritage, and the entire telecast pauses to recognize Paul Tazewell's accomplishment as the first black man to win the Oscar for costume design, Jews are sprinting the other direction, backwards into the 1930s, desperate to prove to their uneducated, anti-Semitic peers how assimilated they are, how they're the good kind of Jews who, renounce their own people and embrace terrorist propaganda for social acceptance. Haven't these people read the Hanukkah story or studied the Holocaust? In any minority group, are the ones who turn against the rest of the group in hopes of approval from people who hate them ever the ones worthy of respect? And let me say this. Of all the people I've asked to appear on this show, the only professional group from whom I've received multiple no's are Jewish actors. Actors with Jewish names who've earned money and acclaim playing Jewish roles and have become so morally confused in their quest for community validation that they literally have no idea who they even are anymore. There were also two very Jewish Holocaust-related films nominated this year, The Brutalist and A Real Pain, both of which took home acting awards for Adrian Brody and Kieran Culkin, respectively. In their acceptance speeches, neither actor mentioned the word Jew or Holocaust, despite those things being wholly responsible for their Oscar wins. Sure, Kieran Culkin is a non-Jewish actor who's built a 30-year career playing a wide range of roles, of which this was just one, and his speech focused on his family and longtime manager. And Brody, who's won both of his Oscars for portraying persecuted Jews during the Holocaust era, did call out systemic oppression, anti-Semitism, and racism in his speech. But was that enough? Would it really have been so hard to pay respect to the struggles of a tribe they temporarily inhabited to further their own careers? It's not for us to say, but a Jew can dream. As to why no one at the Oscars wore a yellow hostage pin, well, nobody wore the bloody red handpin of Artists for a Ceasefire either. And nobody even mentioned Donald Trump. There seems to have been a collective agreement to make the night about what it's actually supposed to be about. Movies, not global events or politics. If award shows want to refocus on just being about entertainment, I am all for it. We want celebrities to shut up about politics, right? Unless they agree with us. But we can't have it both ways. After years of preachy outbursts and unwanted opinions, a return to professionalism and neutrality is A-OK by me. And finally, let's tackle the elephant in the room and talk about the acceptance speech for No Other Land, the joint Palestinian-Israeli documentary focused on life in the Masaferyata neighborhood of Judea and Samaria. Anyone who immediately went into angry defensive mode when everyone started rapturously cheering and applauding, raise your hand. But now that we're past the moment, consider this. There is nothing inherently evil or unfair about people, whether they're Palestinian or anyone else, documenting the difficult conditions under which they live. And if the film is skillfully made and tells a compelling story that breaks your heart, it's going to reach well-meaning audiences who feel sympathy for people living under duress. That's not unreasonable. Context or not, justified or not, the reality is that Palestinians in certain areas of Judea and Samaria live under military law and are subject to certain practices neither you nor I would like to live under, and that's fine content for a documentary. But the speeches obviously touched a couple nerves. Basel Adra, the Palestinian co-director, called on the world to stop Israel's ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Are there Israelis living within Judea and Samaria who would rather live there without Palestinians? Sure. Is that the entire country? Of course not. Adra also lamented feeling like he was always under surveillance, which obviously sucks for a regular person like him. But is it understandable that after decades of suicide bombings and knife attacks and public shootings, Israel might rather be safe than sorry? I think so, though it absolves neither side of responsibility for the situation. Adra's partner, Israeli director Yuval Abraham, laid responsibility for the devastation of Gaza at Israel's feet, which always bothers me whenever someone does it, which is all the time. Then he closed the speech by saying, "My people can be truly safe if Basel's people are truly free and safe." Do I think Palestinians deserve to be free and safe to a greater degree than they are? Yeah. Do I think if they were, Israelis would suddenly be truly safe? No way. But it does seem to me that Palestinian freedom and safety is at least a prerequisite to achieving lasting safety for Israelis. Not the whole shebang, but one of the pieces. Though how we accomplish that outcome is the conundrum of our times and will not be solved by a documentary or a speech. let me leave you with a comforting little secret. That speech didn't actually matter. This was an award for a documentary during a 3-hour ceremony that around 96% of the country didn't even watch. Oscar acceptance speeches do not meaningfully move the needle one way or the other. On-screen representation, contemporary narratives, authenticity, these are things that can have impact, that can reach audiences and humanize Jews for the masses. These are things that can shift public opinion. So demand them, create them, commit to supporting them whenever you can. And when Jewish actors lose themselves in the miasma of self-abasement and shame, let them hear from you. Don't let them skate by and continue to make money off an identity they're too embarrassed to stand by when it actually matters. They think we don't see them, but as the old Hollywood adage says, the camera sees everything, and so do we.